Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for our daily semifinal recap show. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. If you like listening to us chat about CrossFit news and everything that's going on in the sport, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Day 2 has come to a close in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Syndicate Crown. One more day of competition before we see who's punching their tickets to the CrossFit Games. Remember talking about Gabby McClelland yesterday? Well, if you don't, make sure you write her name down now because she is still at the top of the leaderboard on the women's side. As for the men and the team leaderboards, no surprises, just the Medeiros and CrossFit Mayhem Freedom comfortably sitting in first. Joining us again to bring us up to speed on the day is Kiefer Lammi. And, you know, today was fun. Lots to see. Boards were shifting, though.
Yeah, today was a lot of fun. You know, after the first day, you started to see some of the heats readjust a little bit, and we had some really exciting races throughout the day. I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, first I'm going to just pull up the leaderboard quickly just so we can see how some of those placements have shifted. Here we'll start with the men's side. Again, as we mentioned right at the top of the show, Justin Medeiros, he's running away with the first spot, but it's really 2 through almost 8 that we're going to be keeping an eye on for those games tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, one of the biggest things for me to highlight is James Sprague and the way he's battled back after the first event. You know, not one of the strongest athletes, but his performances in the last 3 events since have been really, really impressive.
Yeah, especially after starting the week with a 24th place finish to come back to type. I mean, that's just super impressive in itself.
For sure. And eerily similar to what we're used to seeing from Haley, who's doing the same thing this weekend.
And then just as we bring up the women's leaderboard, rank it. There we go. Top of the leaderboard, Gabby. Haley sitting in third. Weak start to the weekend, but then a first, a third, a first. I mean, that's a pretty good position to be sitting in going into the final day.
Yeah, I've got to imagine she's excited about where she's at now. You know, again, they sort of have to game plan for a start like that. But since then, I mean, she's looked nearly unstoppable in some of the workouts, and I expect tomorrow will be a lot of the same for her.
Right. And then finally, just quickly looking at the team's leaderboard, we can kind of just zip past CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. No surprise that they're in that spot, but it's really the fight for who is going to take the 2 through 4 spot at the end of the weekend. Oh, there we go. Just rearrange 1 through 5. We have CrossFit CLT, CrossFit Mayhem Justice, the second Mayhem team there, 8th Day CrossFit, and TTT CrossFit.
Yeah, the races again have been super close here. It's been interesting to see kind of the flip-flopper performances for teams on events where it requires a little more individual skill as opposed to the events that require a little bit more teamwork. Whereas, you know, you see teams like Training Think Tank and 8th Day CrossFit that have performed super well in the team events, and a couple other teams like the Mayhem Justice team and this CLT team that have done really well on the events that require more individual talent.
Sure. And even starting, we'll start with talking about the teams. Event 3 was fit programmed. It was the thrusters plus legless. This one, it gave us a little bit of data. Lowlands Throwdown, they already took on this event with CrossFit Reykjavik finishing in 10:45. While Mayhem Freedom won this workout at Syndicate, they couldn't pass Reykjavik, finishing in 11:20. Now, we know that Freedom, they're just looking to punch their ticket to the games right now. But I do think that it's interesting to compare some of the data early on between these two teams.
Oh, it definitely is. It's a lot of fun. And you know, I think that's one of the matchups everybody's looking for. So it's the one that we're looking at now. It's almost tough to say because Mayhem's been, you know, a minute ahead of every other team on these events so far. And I would imagine they'd be able to go a little bit faster should they need to. But the Reykjavik team looks really good. It's going to be exciting.
Right. And especially when they're lanes next to each other. But specifically at the Syndicate, both Mayhems finish in first place and second place. Justice, CrossFit Mayhem Justice. I mean, it was a nail biter between them and CrossFit CLT with just 1 second to get that second place spot.
It was a ton of fun. You know, I didn't know a ton about the Justice team going into it. The athletes they have are super impressive. One of the things I was most impressed about was the CLT team going. I think one of their men went unbroken on the last set of thrusters, decided not to pair up to trade off with his partner, and that kept them in it for the final race and made it really exciting.
Yeah, those are the moments where you're like, are they going to be able to do it? Can they hang on? And when it
Yeah.
pays off, it's just incredible for competition.
It's so cool. And then cool to see somebody like Rich going over and congratulating the Justice team. You know, I know he's taken on more of that leadership role with the other teams. And it's a cool side of him to see now.
Absolutely. Speaking of some of the data, the individuals, they also started with one of the CrossFit program events, the 2014 Regional Event 5, with 10 rounds of legless rope climb, a single one, and then 170 feet, 170-foot run. Women, familiar name, a veteran, Christy Aramo O'Connell. She doesn't win her heat, or she doesn't only win her heat in the overall event finish in 3 minutes and 21 seconds, but she now holds the record for any semifinal for this workout.
Yeah, Christy was incredible in this. Both she and Haley were in the second heat, so not even in the final heat with the last group, and she was flying. I think from start to finish, I don't think she slowed down at all. I was super impressed to see.
Well, and even speaking of that, you bring up Haley Adams as well. The interesting thing about this semifinal and the other ones is the heat times, they don't shift throughout the day. So keeping an eye on some of these stronger competitors and the names that we're used to was interesting. And it almost made some of the other heats a little more exciting by seeing maybe heat 2 compared to heat 1 towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I wasn't the only one that felt like I was much more engaged in the second heat, knowing who was in it, especially on a workout like what we had for the last one with skiing with Karen, that we know it's going to be a good workout for Haley. We know how much she loves GHDs and these longer workouts. And so for her to get a first place from the second heat was exciting to watch, and then exciting to see the next group follow up and see them chase down that time.
Over on the men's side for this workout, a name that maybe you've never heard before. I know that this was a more, it was a name that I had to become familiar with, but Spencer Ari, he was the one that stole the show because he came out of his heat winning it, but also took the cake to finish overall in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. After day one, he was sitting in overall, and then you watch him just fly through this workout.
Yeah, he was incredible. I spoke with one of my coworkers, Jared Graybeal, prior to the event, and he said, "Oh, I've got this friend Spencer. I don't know how he's going to do on the weekend as a whole, but he's an incredible gymnast." And he called it. He said he would have a top 3 finish in the workout, and he went out, and I think he has the best time in the world right now. So hats off to Spencer.
Yeah. Right. Incredible performance from him and Christy. I mean, they both really put the gas onto that one and never slowed down. Going back to the teams now, they finished the day with a very team-oriented event, Mirror Move. It consisted of all worm clean and jerks and then synchro chest to bar, followed by heavy squats. Another clean sweep for Mayhem Freedom. But what about some of the other teams in contention for a game spot, especially because this is a workout that we could potentially see this type of style at the CrossFit Games?
Yeah. I mean, again, I was super impressed with the CLT team. They've been kind of on an upward trend since the second workout. I think they finished 4th, 3rd, and now 2nd on that one. So they've been looking really good. I would expect them to do the same tomorrow in another worm workout. 2 other teams that I was really impressed with and not surprised by was 8th Day CrossFit and Training Think Tank. Both teams, I believe, that have been to the games in the past. They're familiar with the worm. They have more time to train together. So no surprise that they did super well there.
Yeah, all about teamwork and communication with that. The individuals, they close the day with a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of the ski erg, wall balls, and GHGs, followed by 80 feet of handstand walking after every round. Now, the men's side, Justin Medeiros took first, but a little further down the leaderboard in 6th and 7th, James Sprague, Jason Hopper. Holy cow, it was a photo finish. Figuring out who won before you looked at the leaderboard was nearly impossible.
Yeah, it was especially you started to see some shifting around the rounds of 30 and 40. Hopper's just an absolute monster on the ski erg and all machines, really. So it was cool to see, him lose some ground on the back half, make it all back up on the ski erg, and then try to figure out through the middle where things were going to shake out. The 2 of them were a lot of fun to watch.
Was Matt Frazier anywhere to be seen while he was watching the event with Hopper?
Yeah, he was down in the family section just past the finish line. It's funny, you could tell as they were going through the handstand walk that it was going to be a close finish. And you immediately saw Matt jump up, goes right towards the finish line. And my mind went to some interview he's done in the past, just talking about knowing which leg his chip is on, knowing which leg to dive forward. And so the second they dive up, you could tell he's looking down at him. And I think he might have missed it by a half a second. And I think that foot cost him.
Oh man, it's those little things that really make a difference in the end, but such an incredible foot race that we saw between those two athletes. On the women's side, Haley Adams, she's also making moves on the final event of the day, taking first place. Some other familiar names that we saw on the leaderboard at the top of the leaderboard for that final event was Ariel Lowen, Alexis Raptis. What was it like seeing things really shift after the final workout of the day for them?
It was interesting. I expected to see their names continue to climb the leaderboard over the course of the weekend. Alexis has been super steady. She's done great on every event. She hasn't necessarily had like a standout winning performance, but she's always in the mix. Ariel I don't know if everybody had a chance to see it, but her walking on her hands was like me running on my feet. She looked so comfortable towards the end of each round. She did all of her sections unbroken. She had a great performance.
Incredible. And going into the final day, this time tomorrow, we're going to know who's punching their tickets to the games. Who are you keeping your eye on?
Honestly, I'm still, really closely watching Gabby McClelland. I was curious going into today, how she would do once we saw some high skill gymnastics, how she would do once we had a really long workout. And she's stuck at the top and she's done really well. So, with how strong she is and how gritty she seems to be, I can only expect the next two workouts will go pretty well for her. And then, a little further down the leaderboard, I expect Christy to continue to perform well, Ariel the same. And I think that fight for the 5th spot is going to be really exciting between a few of them.
One more day of competition, then we will see who punches their ticket to the CrossFit Games. Kiefer, thank you so much for sitting down with us again. Enjoy the final day, and we'll chat about who's going to Madison tomorrow.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.